Now let's talk about the type of reflection. So we will consider a parallel beam of incident ray. In this case, the parallel beam of incident striking a plane surface, whereas in another case we can see parallel beam of incident ray strikes a rough surface. But remember, whenever reflection of light takes place, each ray is going to obey laws of reflection, which states that incident ray normal drawn at the point of incidence and reflected ray all three lie in same plane, and angle of incidence is always equal to angle of reflection. Now since this reflecting surface is a plane, so we'll we can note the point of incidence, and at the point of incidence what we are supposed to draw, we are supposed to draw normal, right? So if I draw normal in this case, what we can say that since the incident rays were parallel, normals are also parallel, the angle of incidence will be equal in each case, angle of incidence will be equal in all case. And if I draw the reflected ray, see what I get. By drawing the reflected ray, I get the reflected ray again as the parallel beam, because angle of reflection in all the case will be equal. So this is the first ray, this is the second, this is the third, and this is the fourth, and this is again we get as parallel beam of reflected ray. So whenever a parallel beam of incident ray strikes a highly polished plane surface, we get a parallel beam of reflected ray. Such type of reflection is called as a regular reflection. And remember, in this type of reflection, the intensity of the reflected beam will always be equal to the intensity of the incident beam. So I would say here that intensity of reflected beam is always equal to intensity of incident beam. Remember, here one of the case we are considering where no part of the light is absorbed by the surface. So this is just an ideal case where the surface is a plane but it is highly polished. That means here the surface is behaving as 100% reflector. So if we have a plane surface which is a best reflecting surface, or if it is reflecting 100% of the light, a parallel beam of incident ray will get reflected as a parallel beam, because in each case angle of incidence will be same, so the angle of reflection will be same. So such type of reflection where a parallel beam of incident ray gets reflected as a parallel beam of reflected ray is called as a regular reflection. And in regular reflection, remember, the intensity of the reflected beam is always equal to the intensity of the incident beam, or we can say beam. But what if the surface is rough? Even though the surface is highly polished, if it is rough, what we can say that at the point of incidence, if we draw normal, so remember this is the surface like this surface is like this. So if I draw normal in each case, what I will get by drawing normal, the angle of incidence will be different, right? The angle of incidence will be different. Here the angle of incidence will be different, angle of incidence will be different. But remember, will the ray obey laws of reflection? Yes, I have already explained whether the reflection takes place from a plane surface, rough surface, or a curved surface. Each ray, if it is getting reflected, is going to obey laws of reflection. So this ray, the first ray, will obey the laws of reflection, will get reflected along this direction. The second ray will get reflected along this direction. The third ray will get reflected along this direction, and the fourth ray will get reflected along this direction. And what do we see that we don't have a parallel beam of reflected ray. In fact, the rays get reflected in different direction. We can say the rays get scattered in the different direction. So such a reflection where a parallel beam of incident ray after reflection gets scattered in different direction is called as the irregular reflection. And since the ray gets scattered in the different direction, here the intensity, come on tell me, of reflected beam, right, which is dispersed or which is scattered, okay, is not equal to intensity of incident beam. right? So we can say such type of reflection you can also call it as a diffused reflection. Diffused reflection. So diffuse reflection is another name for irregular reflection, where a parallel beam of incident ray, if it strikes a surface, after getting reflected gets scattered or get dispersed in the different direction. So such a reflection is called as irregular or diffuse reflection. Thank you.